Hey everyone, welcome to week 4 on the Dean's Family Wellbeing Journey. I'm having a catch up with Tracy today to discuss my react video to self-compassion. So after watching that video, I realised that I'm that negative circle. So I binge watch TV. So I don't go out. I try and think, well, if I've got to wear a mask out and I don't need to wear a mask at home, I might as well just stay at home. And all I do is do the school run. I don't do any shopping. My husband does it all. However, I have lately, after watching that video, broke the circle slightly. So I went to the corner today for coffee, which was a bit scary because there's all different types of ways to do things, and I was a little bit like, I don't know where I'm going, even though that's my go-to place normally. It was just hand sanitizer. You can either do the QR scan thing or sign in, and I was just like, I just want coffee, you know. And then there's a different way out, and I only went out the wrong way, and then I was like, no, it's that way, and I'm like, oh, it's a bit too much.
It's so stressful.
I know. And like when it said about mentioning about if you're about being your own best friend, so if your best friend was feeling how you were feeling, what would you do? Well, straight away I'll be shaking my best friend, saying, why do you feel like this? Why haven't you come to me? And one of my friends have contacted me and reached out and said, look, you need to come over. So I'm going there for lunch on Friday. And normally I wouldn't go out. I would make excuse up like, oh no, I'm busy, or oh no, I don't know. I just make I think it's the panic and the anxiety that I think I might as well just stay at home. But I'm starting to break the cycle, not the circle. But I'm scared I might go back into that. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a normal fear, isn't it? Because it's so, like you say, it's all so strange, isn't it? All the new requirements and everything's slightly different, and it's awkward and we feel uncomfortable, and things like, we're human beings, we're naturally sociable creatures, aren't we? So all those things that we naturally want to do, like we want to give our friend a hug, or, you know, we want to, you know, be closer and sitting and chatting, and now all of a sudden we have to go against our own nature to be a little bit more reserved and wearing the mask and going different routes. So we're all under a lot of stress, and I think we have to just cut ourselves a little bit of slack and go, you know what, it is hard. And of course, if that's the reality, it's normal for us to want to hide ourselves away a little bit. You know, so you're not on your own, are you? You're not the only mum feeling like that.
No, and I realised that when I went to the corner, there's a few mums in there and we got chatting, and they were saying that they feel the same type thing. So I was like, oh, okay, so it's not just me being fickle or anything. So
yeah, that's it. And we give ourselves a hard time, but actually it's just a normal response. This is really stressful and difficult and awkward, and I'm going to shy away from it. And that's just a normal response, which a lot of us are feeling like. So again, having this self-compassion, isn't it? It's about recognizing that it's not me, there's nothing wrong with me, it's just that's the reality that we're in right now. And it's so helpful to talk to other people and hear their stories and realize they feel the same, and then for us to connect up and help each other, you know, to encourage one another to get out, even if we find it awkward or difficult. And that's what's going to stop us sliding back, because naturally we're all going to want to, I've been out, I didn't really like it, I think I'll go back to my TV. You know, that's going to be normal to feel like that. So we've really got to actively look out for one another in it.
Okay, that's a good point. I'll put that on my notes, because I do find I try and stick to the easy way, the easy option. If there's an easier option, I'll go for that instead of going out and stuff. But I did enjoy my coffee, and I'm looking forward to Friday, so it's something that I know need to do. But I need to come away from that negative. But I really enjoyed the video and watching it, and made me realise that actually it is easy to do, like you said. It's just a case of now coming away from that.
Definitely, and just having that self-compassion, just cutting ourselves a bit more slack and understanding why we feel like we feel, and actively looking at ways to be kinder to ourselves. So I love that video. I love the fact that it just helps us be more aware, because being aware is the first step to change, isn't it? You know, we can't change things if we're not really aware of patterns we've slipped into, and the fact they're not really that helpful. But so this idea of self-awareness, and I wanted to think about this idea of this critical manner that we have sometimes towards ourselves, and where that comes from, why it's there, and how damaging it is. And when I was thinking about how damaging it is, I was thinking a lot of us can relate to the fact that we might have had a boss who was really critical of us, or it might have been a teacher we had at school, it might have been a partner, it might have been our parents when we were growing up. A lot of us can relate to this idea of having somebody in our lives who was really, really critical. And for me, when I reflected on that and how that made me feel, it was just, you can't get it right. You know, you're trying really hard, but whatever you do is not good enough. You can't make it right. They're always going to find a fault with it. And that can be really demoralizing. You can think, what's the point? You know, you can get really anxious about it. Oh, I want to do this right, but I can't. There's still going to be a problem with it. So all the feelings that it evokes are really, really unhealthy. They're really damaging to us. And then if you think about how you felt around that person who was really critical, so think back to whoever that person in your life might have been, and then just think, what if you were with them 24/7? What if you never got a break from them? Because if it's your boss, you can knock off shift, go home, you get a little bit of a break from them before you go back on the next day. But if the person who's really, really critical is yourself, and you're the one giving yourself a hard time, you don't get a break because you're with you all of the time. Sounds really obvious, but it's not something that we think about. And what impact does that have? So if we look at some of these ideas that we talked about, so you might feel, what's the point? You might feel really unmotivated. Whatever I do, it's not going to work. It's not going to be good enough. You might feel really anxious and insecure. All of those feelings, how is that going to transfer into your parenting? You know, it has a huge impact. So we talked about, I think we've talked about it a couple of times, this idea of how you feel in the supermarket if your kids start acting out and you feel like people are looking at you. Well, if you are already really critical about yourself and you already think that you're doing a bad job, then your interpretation of people looking at you is you're going to think more into what they're doing. You're going to think, oh yeah, that person thinks I'm no good as a parent. And that's going to reinforce what you're already telling yourself. And that's going to leave you feeling absolutely rubbish. And when we feel like that, the part of our brain that takes over is our survival part of our brain. And that's where we flip our lids. So this idea of looking at why we're critical and how critical we are of ourselves is so important when we're looking at trying to break this cycle of reacting and flipping our lids and wanting to move towards better family life where we're responding to our children in a positive way rather than just reacting. So we look at where this idea of being critical comes from. And I wanted to just talk for a minute, if that's okay, about where it does come from. Because I know for me on the ACEs journey, what's really helpful is understanding why I do what I do and where these things come from. It helps take that pressure off, really, of it's me, you know, actually I can understand where it came from. So if we look at ACEs, which are negative experiences that we have when we're growing up, so like right from babies through to being adults, all those negative experiences have a huge impact on our core beliefs. So it's what we call our internal working model, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we see the world around us. And everybody has one. So everyone you meet will have an internal working model, a way that they see the world and a way that they see themselves. And we'll all have one, and that will be shaped by our personalities and our experiences growing up. And so any negative experiences we've had will have a huge impact into that. So when we're babies and very young children, we are totally reliant on the adults around us. You know, we can't feed ourselves, we can't change ourselves, we can't keep ourselves warm, we can't meet any of our own needs. We're totally reliant on those adults around us. And it's exactly the same with our emotional needs. Nobody is born resilient. That is a complete myth. Okay, nobody is born resilient. We develop resilience. It's a quality it's a skill that we develop through our connections with the adults around us. So how that works is if I'm upset as a baby, if I'm crying and I'm distressed because I'm cold or I'm tired, or I've got something going on and I just am not happy, then as well as my carer or my parent meeting my need, they're also going to meet my emotional needs. They're going to calm me down because I'm distressed, and they're going to comfort me. And by doing that, what they're doing is they're making me feel safe, and they're making me feel good about myself. And so when that happens time and time and time again, I then grow up thinking, yep, the world's a safe place, and actually I'm a nice person, because whenever I have a problem, people help sort it out. So that means I'm valuable and worth something. So we have this positive self-esteem, and we have a positive view of the world. And that then knocks onto how we see things as adults. But if we've had a lot of negative experiences, and the adults around us, maybe because of their own issues, maybe they were struggling themselves with their mental health, or with alcohol, or different things they might have had going on, they might not have been able to consistently meet our needs. They might not have been able to make us feel safe. They might not have been able to comfort us when we were upset. And what happens is we then develop a different core belief system. So we view the world as unsafe, and we view ourselves as, well, we're not really worth it. Well, maybe there might be something wrong with me. And so we can develop this more negative core belief system. And what happens is, alongside that, because we've got this belief that the world isn't very safe, the survival part of our brain grows, because we have a greater need to protect ourselves, because we don't think the world is safe. So that makes it, when we look at this idea of flipping your lid, if you've got a core belief system that says the world is not safe, this part of your brain is going to be overdeveloped and oversensitive to threat. And this part of your brain is going to be a lot harder to activate. So it's going to be a lot harder for you to calm down and to regulate. So when we think about that with our parenting, if we've got an overdeveloped survival part of our brain, and we're more critical of ourselves, and we're more anxious because of the environment that we're in, of course we're going to flip our lids more with our children, because we've already got that predisposition going on. So rather than giving ourselves a hard time about that, if we understand that, what we can do is we can have more self-compassion. We can be a lot kinder to ourselves, and we can go, okay, right, so what do I do? How do I address this? How do I actually develop strategies to calm down my survival part of my brain and bring this bit back on, so that actually I can be the parent that I want to be? And we way back, we looked at that, didn't we, in terms of some of the strategies that we gave. But that's why sometimes we get into these cycles where we're flipping our lids with our children, because we've got this inner view of ourselves. So by being self-compassionate, it's not just something that's a nice thing to do. It's actually really, really important. If we want a really nice quality of life with our children, the very first thing we have to do is start being kinder to ourselves and practicing self-care, so that we can then regulate our nervous system, which will enable us then to interact better with our children. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite a big concept, isn't it?
Yeah, because I find if I was being criticised, I immediately get defensive. My back gets up a little bit, because I kind of feel a bit like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You try and do better then, because you show me what you think then, but this is how I do things. So yeah, I get my back goes up a little bit.
And that's a really good example, because I think sometimes where we've had ACEs, we are more defensive, because actually we're more hypersensitive to comments that people make. If we hadn't experienced ACEs and we had more of a secure view of ourselves and the world, if people made a critical comment, it would probably just go over our heads. Right, okay, well, that's your opinion. Actually, I'm confident in myself and my own ability, so I don't need to take that on board. But when we haven't got that security within ourselves, we are swayed more by what other people say, and we tend to put more weight on it than we need to.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of self-compassion is recognizing that we do that, and then we can start to realize we're doing it. And when we find ourselves getting defensive or reacting to something somebody's saying, having that self-awareness, we can step back and we can say, hang on a minute, do I need to listen to that feedback? Do I, actually, I am doing my best in this situation. I don't need to listen to that feedback, because most of the comments and the feedback that we react to is from people that we don't even need to be worrying about what they think, so it is really helpful understanding that. And I wanted to share with you this tip that I found really helpful. It's from Dr. Rebecca Brandstetter, and really helpful, because a lot of the time when we're really critical of ourselves, one of the things that we do is we will look at things we haven't done, or things that we've done badly. So you might just walk into the kitchen and there's a big pile of washing, or washing up, overflowing, and your first thought is going to be, oh, I can't believe I haven't done that, or that's all piling up, and we'll be really critical of ourselves. And actually what we need to do is step back and look at the whole picture. So we talked about right at the beginning of this video, actually, what being kinder to ourselves. We are in a pandemic, so actually everything is a lot harder, and that's taken its toll, and we are actually all struggling to just carry on and do the everyday things that we normally do. So one of the things you can start doing is, as being more self-compassionate, is at the start of those sentences saying to yourself, during a pandemic, I haven't done all the washing, but I'm doing my best. Okay, so you've still got the sentence in the middle of, I haven't done all the washing, or I haven't got, I forgot to get that at the supermarket, or whatever. But what you've done is you've put the bit at the beginning that puts it in context. During a pandemic, I haven't been able to get all the washing up done, but I'm doing my best. And actually, this goes back to this idea of your best friend, doesn't it? If your best friend was saying to you, oh my goodness, the washing's piling up, I haven't been able to do the washing up, the house is a mess, you wouldn't be giving them a hard time. You'd be going, hang on a minute, wow, look at what you are doing, look how far you have come, and actually things are really tough right now, and I can see you're doing your best. And that's what we need to do ourselves. So this little tip I found really helpful. Just every time I go to say something negative about what isn't done, or what hasn't been done as good as it could have been done, putting that disclaimer in, and then going, actually, yeah, there's a lot going on right now, and I've done my best, and actually that is good enough, because you can't ask for more than somebody doing their best, can you? So if you're struggling, if you're feeling a bit low, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, if you've done as much as you can do while you feel like that, then that is good enough. And it's about us having that kindness and compassion to ourselves. So yeah, try that when you start to give yourself
written that down,
a little nag. When you start to nag yourself about what you haven't done, just put that disclaimer in.
I like that. What's our next react to video?
Yeah, so the next one I'm very excited about. I absolutely love this one. It's looking at breathing exercises we can do with our children. Okay. So what we've been doing over the last few weeks, we've been looking at this idea of how we flip our lids, and actually strategies to help us stay connected, to stay calmer, and to manage situations more positively. And one of the things we keep coming back to is strategies like breathing. Taking a really deep breath in and a slow exhale calms your whole nervous system, and that enables the front part of your brain to reconnect, and it enables you to respond in a way that is more helpful. And we want the same for our children. We want them to be able to do that, because it's no different for our children. In fact, it's harder for our children, because if we look at this model, this part of their brain hasn't even fully developed yet, because they're children, and this part of your brain doesn't fully develop till you're probably about 25. So when we're thinking about our expectations for our children, even if they aren't dysregulated and flipping their lid, and they are completely connected, this bit is still not completed. So that's a helpful thing to remember, is actually our expectations of our children. But it is helpful to teach them to learn to regulate themselves, because that makes family life a lot easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some activities that you can do, breathing activities that you can do with your child, that is going to be fun, it's going to help your connection with them, and together, by doing them together, you're both going to be a bit calmer. So it's going to strengthen your connection, and it's going to teach them really good strategies for going on to adulthood, so that as adults they have the resilience that we would want them to have. So yeah, excited to see what you make of them, which ones you like. And then I'll share with you which one my favourite is next week.
Okay, brilliant. No, I'm looking forward to that. I think Zach will enjoy doing some breathing experience with me as well.
Yes, brilliant. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Nadine. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.